I am continuing on with the figure theme that I've been doing over the last few builds. And this next one is from the Printpire, I guess Print Empire. And it's this grass hut with fencing and some figures. So this is the grass hut. It's 3D printed, and it has this top that I guess goes sort of like this. It's not real clear where it's supposed to line up. I'm guessing something like this. So that's the grass hut, and then it comes with these fence pieces like this, and let's see, there's a few more. There are these. Hopefully that's in focus for you. And this one here. And then it comes with, I believe, 5 figures. Let me open it up. I got this off of eBay, and I was kind of interested in, if there was like a paleo wargaming thing, what that would be like. So there's this, and I think part of his spear just broke off. This little archer. This guy here. This guy here, and I've dropped a couple of pieces. Let me grab those. There's this spearman here. I'm not sure. This is just a sprue. This piece just broke off of a spear, so I'm going to have to work on that. So these are not quite as tiny as the linear A guys that were in 1/72 scale. I think these are 28 millimeter. So hopefully they'll be a little bit easier to do, but they're still teeny tiny. So that's the next one. I'm going to see if I can do this over the weekend, because it's not much assembly at all. It's just the roof going on to the top of the grass hut, and the rest of it's just painting. So we're going to see where this takes us. Let's jump into the adventure. So I've got these taped down to a paper plate, and in a minute here I'm going to prime them, and I believe I'm going to use the Tamiya white surface primer. Alright, so I've got it all primed with white. I thought about priming it with black, but I think for the colors I'm going to use, it's better to do it white. So alright, the next step is going to be to get into painting. For the hut and the fence pieces, I used a combination of Vallejo Model Color Flat Earth and Vallejo Model Color Camouflage Black Brown, and did that with adding some water so it was nice and thin so it would get into all the cracks. For the figures, I went ahead and used Vallejo Model Color Camouflage Black Brown watered down as a base coat. For the first dry brush coat on the grass hut, I used Vallejo Model Color Pale Sand, Panzer Ace's Light Rubber, Vallejo Model Color Flat Earth, and just a little bit of the Vallejo Model Color Bright Green. It's probably a little greener than I would like, so I'm probably going to do another brush coat later. Did another round of dry brushing on the grass hut, and I again used the Panzer Aces light rubber, Vallejo model color pale sand, Vallejo model color leather brown, and Vallejo model color golden brown. So I was not happy with how the fence lines looked, so I did another base coat with Vallejo model color camouflage black brown, Vallejo model color leather brown, and Vallejo model color black. And I then carried those colors over to the various wood poles that were used in the grass hut. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll come back and do some more. I've got what looks to be ropes or bands or leather thongs holding some of the grass hut together. So I've got to come back and do those, and then I've got to do some brush coats on the fence line. So more to come. The hut has, what I'm guessing are leather straps that hold the structure together. I'm guessing on that. I don't know for a fact. To do that, I used some of the Vallejo model color leather brown, Vallejo model color German black brown, and Vallejo model color pale brown. I will later probably do a lighter color. So this is the base coat for the straps, and then I'll come back and do something else for a highlight. I next went on to do the wooden posts on the hut and on the fence line. And to do that, I used Vallejo model color German camo black brown, Vallejo model color leather brown, Vallejo model color pale brown, Vallejo model color pale sand, just a little tiny touch, and a decent amount of Panzer Aces light rubber, because a lot of wood, when you see it, when it gets dried out, it actually sometimes, depending upon what kind of tree it is, the wood will actually turn a gray color. So that's what I decided to go with on this. So I did a little dry brushing on the skull that's over the doorway on the grass hut. And for that, I used Vallejo model color cream white. All right, so I've highlighted what I'm guessing are leather straps on the grass hut. So I think I've got all that squared away. The next thing I wanted to do was the dirt around the fence line, and for that I used Vallejo model color pale brown. So on the fence line and around the grass hut, there were some rocks. So for that, I did a base coat of Panzer Aces dark rubber, and I'll probably use Panzer Aces light rubber later to do the highlights. I finished off the skull that sits on top of the grass hut over the doorway with a dry brush of Vallejo model color ivory. To highlight the rocks, I used Panzer Aces light rubber. There was this leather pouch looking thing hanging from the side of the grass hut, and I believe that's leather, honestly. So I started off with a base coat of Vallejo model color flat earth, and I'll find something, maybe more of a tan a little later on, to highlight that. To finish up the leather pouch, I'm assuming it's leather, that hangs off the side of the grass hut, I used a combination of Vallejo Model Color Gold Brown, Vallejo Model Color Pale Sand, and Scale Color Intense Ochre. And I dry brushed that on, and I think that part's going to be done. To finish out the earthenware pot and bowl and such, I used Vallejo Model Color Light Brown, very little tiny bit of the Vallejo Cavalry Brown, and a fair amount of the Vallejo Model Color Cream White. I was looking at the base coat that I had done previously on the figures, and I guess because it was kind of watered down, I didn't get the coverage that I want, so I went ahead and did another base coat with Vallejo Model Color Camouflage Black Brown. So I did some more work on the figures to start getting the flesh tones down, and previously I'd used Vallejo Model Color German Camouflage Black Brown, and I'm stepping it up a little bit. I'm using that again, as well as some Vallejo Model Color Leather Brown, and I'm just going to keep working to lighter and lighter tones. So while I'm waiting for the skin tones to dry, I decided to work on the hair, and for that I used Vallejo Model Color Black. I'll come over that with a mix of the black and the brown later. I did some more work on the flesh tones, again working from darker to lighter. To do that, for the next layer I did Vallejo Model Color Leather Brown and Vallejo Model Color Pale Brown. So I did the last of the highlights for the flesh tone using Vallejo Model Color Pale Brown. Next up was the clothing and fur. For the clothing, I'm going to treat it like it's leather. So I did a base coat of Vallejo Model Color Leather Brown. And for the fur, I used as a base coat Vallejo Model Color Camouflage Black Brown. For the hair, I used Vallejo Model Color Leather Brown, and on a few of them, because they looked like they might be a little bit older, I used some of the Panzer Ace's light rubber to make it look a little gray. Next, I did the spears and anything else that looked like wood, and for that I used Tamiya Buff. And then for the spearheads and anything else that looked like stone, I used Vallejo Model Color German Camouflage Black Brown. I did a dry brush for the leather clothing and straps using a combination of AK Basic Skin, Panzer Ace's light rubber, and Vallejo Model Color Pale Brown. So to do the fur, I used a combination of Vallejo Model Color Leather Brown and Vallejo Model Color Cream White, because I'm doing the highlights. To finish up the spearheads and other stone tools, I used Panzer Ace's light rubber to do the highlights on those. So I wanted to make a base for this. To that end, I cut out some foam board, and I wanted a little bit of a terrace. So I think I may trim this top piece down a little bit, but the idea is it should look like a little fort with the fence pieces around it. So I'm going to do a little more trimming and go from there. The next step on the base was to use some Elmer's rubber cement to glue the two base pieces together. The next step was to take some Woodland Scenics Moldacine plaster. This is a textured plaster, and cover the foam board base that I'd cut out and glued together. Now I'm going to let that sit. It's probably going to take a few hours to dry, and then come back, add the parts to the base, and then hit it with some Woodland Scenics fine turf. To prepare the base to receive the turf, I made a mix of water and Elmer's glue. Later, I just used straight Elmer's glue to glue the pieces down. Once everything was in place, I lightly sprinkled some of the Woodland Scenics fine turf over everything, and then I'll come back and shake it off. The Printpire grass hut with fence and 5 figures is done. This was better than the linear A figures that I did right before this kit. So let's talk about it a minute. The figures are a little bit larger than linear A, so it was a little more pleasant to do. Still, I need a lot of work working on at this scale. This is like 28 millimeter figures, but not bad. Some critiques that I've got of the kit itself: the figures look to have been resin printed as opposed to filament printed, but whatever resin they used, it's a little bit brittle. So I had on this guy here, the spear broke a couple of times, and this guy with the sling, it also broke. So I had to do some super glue repairs with that. So, but it's done now. Other critique: this hut and the fence line, or the fence pieces, look to have been filament printed, because there's some very clear layer lines on those, and when you go to dry brush, it will show those layer lines. So that's the critique. I like the design of it, of the grass hut particularly. So that wasn't bad. Just they really should have used resin instead of filament. So anyway, that's my my Printpire grass hut fence line and figures. So I think I'm going to continue on with the figure theme that I've been on for a while. Not sure what's going to be next, but there will be something. So stay tuned for further adventures.